Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eugene Kwach, and tonight, again, we do what we know how to do best, and that is, of course, chew these high voltage issues into fractions and boluses that you, our viewer, can actually swallow, and of course, through the eyes of thought leaders. And in this case, I'm joined through in this conversation by Eric Nebei, who is an advocate of the High Court. We will be discussing quite a number of issues that actually are affecting us on the inside tonight. And of course, for a month or so, we have been in a conversation of different pandemics striking our nation, from the doctor's strike, derailing efficiency of our healthcare system, the economy on the high taxation, even as there was no reprieve during the 1st of May Labor Day celebrations, and now a flooding menace across the country. Of course, these are things that actually form the basis for of our discussion tonight, but these are not the only things that we're going to discuss. We also get to look at the impeachment motion of Mithika Linturi, another test to Parliament amidst fertilizer scandal on who and how they're going to vote, and generally how this is going to appear, even as it is 109 votes against 36, 4, right? Yes. So these are the conversations that we're also going to have here. And of course, we're also going to question and ask issues around the Bunge Tower. What does it mean for the houses as having the Bunge Towers? What does it mean now for the country? Because the Bunge Tower is to serve the people. Are they now going to serve the people? Well, that's a question that we also get to delve into as we continue with this conversation. You're watching GBS TV Africa, and of course, my name is Eugene Kwach once again. Well, to the bond before is our SMS line at kwachofficial at GBS TV Africa is where you get to delve and engage us in this conversation. And this conversation begins right now. Mr. Nabi, thank you so much after quite a long time of physically visiting our studios. Thank you so much for finding time and being part of this conversation.
Thank you very much, Eugene. I'm glad to join this conversation. It has been a while, but we are here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I wish us that we start this conversation, and the conversation begins. Today, the president actually addressed the nation on the issue of the pandemic that has actually affected the country for a while. And this has actually begged the question of how and what the government is actually doing to mitigate this particular menace that we are experiencing. Maybe let's start from there.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Yeah, from the president's address today, clearly we are in a pandemic. I don't know whether we can equate it to that of COVID-19, but it is a real pandemic. Having taken the lives of over 200 Kenyans, it is a pandemic that we should all be concerned. And as Kenyans, we've been waiting for the president and even the government to take it serious, to take the issue with the seriousness it deserves. And I'm glad that the measures the president has announced today are measures that clearly demonstrate a good intention by government to assist Kenyans and to help Kenyans come out of this. From the president's address, you could see that the most crucial, concerns like issues of education, he has had to postpone the opening of schools indefinitely. Kenyans had started being anxious about the opening date on Monday, because last week when it was postponed, they said 1 week. Yet the weathermen have insisted that these rains are still continuing up to at least June. So it was not really, proper for the Ministry of Education initially to push it to Monday as if the rain was supposed to end by this weekend. So we are happy that the president has made that announcement on time. And also the directives he has given to the various ministries, including even members of parliament, urging them to prioritize schools that are being affected by rains in terms of utilization of the Constituency Development Fund. and him announcing how the various ministries are supposed to collaborate with other development partners, including Red Cross and UNHCR and those agencies and NGOs to ensure that Kenyans are helped. What we also want to see is, proper utilization of funds, emergency funds at the national government and county government level. I hope that one still comes out clear, because currently there are concerns that as much as the national government is being seen to respond, county governments are not transparent in how they are coming out with the funds they have to support these initiatives. Otherwise, it is a pandemic. It is a serious problem that as Kenyans, I think we need to come together. And times like this, are times, seasons that test the nation, and we hope that we will still come out of this as strong Kenyans. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There's also a question I would wish to ask you because of many issues, and that is on the state of Kenya's resilience to such pandemics. You see, now the students are not actually going to school, and the devastating impact of this pandemic is so huge. Actually, it's quite immense, and we have seen the destruction of property, which is very profound. We have also witnessed loss of lives to some people, and it has displaced people. Some businesses are not going on. The other time I was having a conversation with a certain farmer and told me that the farm products, even the farm is actually been flooded. So this is actually a menace. And just to jog your mind, this is something that has not happened. It's not the first time. In 1998, we experienced something similar, maybe it could be worse or something close to this. We have not just experienced this as a pandemic alone. We have also experienced other pandemics, including COVID-19, that affected our country so much. So the question is on Kenya's resilience to these pandemics. What are we doing to mitigate such pandemics? And what the government is doing, is it even sufficient to that Kenya, as it stands, can actually have confidence in the country in terms of such pandemics?
Thank you, Eugene. Kenya has been resilient, and as you said, we've had even more serious pandemics in the past, especially the COVID-19, and I must say that we came out of it stronger because Kenyans came together in prayers. They came together in helping one another, and even taking initiatives at various levels. What is striking is that we keep getting these pandemics, and we look like we are always unprepared for them. For instance, last year we had a lot of hype about El Nino rains, which were really never that serious. They were never as heavy as we are seeing rains now. And we saw government trying to, even allocate funds and to budget for it. And the question that arises is whether the meteorological department had foreseen these rains, and if they had, what did government do in preparation? Because there are mitigation measures that we could still have taken, including making arrangements to ensure that those where dams are located. I'm told we have over 200 dams that are now threatening to overflow. What mitigation measures has the government taken, did taken before this rain started? It looks like we were not prepared, we were not ready, despite those predictions. So Kenyans as citizens are resilient, I must say that. But to some extent, I must agree with those who say that government has always failed us, because we look like we are reactionary. We wait until something happens, then we try to now put measures in place to salvage the situation, as opposed to having preventive measures. If not preventive, at least we have measures to to help us go through those processes, because natural calamities like such floods are not things that the government can stop, but there is a way we could prepare. The issue, for instance, the Mai Mahiu tragedy, I'm told the dam was a natural one. It is not a constructed one. And of course, it is something that we can say we could not predict, but on the general overview, had we foreseen that these rains were coming, and were there, measures that had been taken at various levels, national and county government level. From the way we reacted, it looks like there were no measures, and it looks like the cabinet has hurriedly been meeting, and even county government leaders and other stakeholders have been meeting after the rains. So the lesson is, can we find lasting solutions the way I've seen what happened in Budalangi, what has been happening in Budalangi this time round. Budalangi is not, in the forefront. It is not in the limelight because of some projects that had been implemented there to address issues of flooding. How I wish we could now deal with floods in such a way that, we anticipate, there are areas that we can anticipate that if rains go beyond the normal levels, this and this can happen. So, and it is the role of government, because we pay taxes, we pay revenues for government to plan for us and to do these things. But as Kenyans are very resilient people. We've seen people offering humanitarian help at, at village levels. They are helping. People are raising funds for those who are affected. People are donating clothes. They are donating their foodstuffs to their neighbors. And with the support of the government, I think we will still come through this, and we will come out of it stronger than ever. Yeah.
Yes. When you talk about resilience, then someone will question for how long? Because we have experienced such pandemics. And some of the issues and conversations around these pandemics is that some of them actually could have been mitigated well before they had actually occurred. When we talk about some flooding across even Thika Road, and the conversations or even Mombasa Road, conversations have always been around the drainage system, where we have had government officials actually not using or misappropriating funds that have been even made for these drainage systems, or even mitigating some of these issues. So what do you think about mitigating such issues? Like, to this extent, has the government or is the government doing enough to actually ensure that even those funds, because there are some funds, millions of money, that have not yet put or cannot be accounted for, whether they've helped, who have they helped, or in such times, should we even have now like places where in such circumstances we have people being taken, and what is the government generally doing about it?
I'm glad you've mentioned the issues of flooding in especially Nairobi, Nairobi capital city, and in other towns. A road like Thika Road, experiencing such kinds of flooding, and even the new expressway. I saw the other time, it looked like a river that was, floating, and it is very discouraging that as Kenya, we have those mega projects where we allocate a lot of funds, billions of money. We expect the project to be world-class, to be top-notch, but when rains come, when such kinds of, natural occurrences come, that is when we discover that the work was substandard. And the problem is still about the issue of corruption, where we've institutionalized it, and in most cases these contracts are advertised, contractors bid, but at the end of the day the money that goes to the contractors' pockets is very, very small, because a percentage of it, for instance, at the county government level, the CEC for roads will demand for 30%. Then he will also demand for another 30% for the boss, the governor, and that happens informally. And even at the national government level, we understand that money is allocated for this road, and construction of a road should be all inclusive. build tarmac a road and even ensure that the drainage system is well taken care of. But look at our roads. The other time I went to, there is a road that links Kitale through Endebess to Swam border to Uganda. It is a mega project that was funded by the Africa Development Bank. It is in both sides of the, Kenya and Uganda. The Ugandan side of it is across the border. The kind of drainage system put in the side of Uganda and the one in Kenya is very different. The quality of the tarmac itself, including how the markings have been done. Ours is complete. I don't know whether it has been launched. I think it was launched. It is complete, but there are no those signs that are supposed to be those markings on the road. They have not even been put. Yet it is complete. The Ugandan side is done very well, I can say. And I think it is about supervision. We can't really blame the contractor if the burdens that come with being awarded a contract are that you have to give back, those kickbacks. But just look at this project, which is funded by the same institution. We expected it to be uniform, but because of supervision, because of the difference in terms of how. For that reason, I allowed President Museveni because the road is well done. The road linking the Swam border to Kapchorwa to Mbale, it is well done. It is the same project, and so I'm saying the flooding issue, especially in the capital city, I think it is about wastage and misappropriation of funds that are meant to take care of this. Because you ask yourself, what is the function of this county government? There is a percentage, I think a minimum percentage of the budget that is supposed to go to disaster management. But besides that disaster management, because that comes into place after there is such a calamity, we are now asking Sakaja, what are you doing with these funds? What have you been doing with them for the past 1 year and now this year? Besides that, how has the county been trying to deal with drainage issues? Because it is always there, it is perennial. What have they done? As simple as that, because the functions of the county government, they are not much. What are the functions of these CECs in charge of roads and the governor when they sit as cabinet? What do they do during the dry seasons? What are they doing if they are not planning for how to unclog the drainage systems and ensure that we don't experience such issues? And the same applies to the national government. This being the capital city, I still believe that both the national government and the county government have a huge role to play. For our airport, for instance, to be flooded in the way we saw, and the flooding, not just the flooding, but roofs leaking. That is so embarrassing. We could excuse the government if we are talking about flooding the way we saw Dubai International Airport and others. But roofs leaking, that speaks a lot about the quality of our infrastructure and how we do them. So I think it is largely a failure by government, and it is related to corruption, which we have actually institutionalized.
Thank you so much for speaking so vividly about it. But there is also something you've mentioned about supervision, which is very imperative for such projects to actually even thrive. And this leads to the next conversation, and actually that is on the impeachment of the CS for agriculture and livestock and agriculture development. Yes. So there is an impeachment motion. Actually that was supported by around 109 against 36, if I'm not wrong. And it was based on gross violation of constitutional provisions. And we talk about the acquisition. I don't know whether, Ian, we have maybe a snippet of the happenings in Parliament.
This House resolves that the President dismisses the Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi from the office of the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development on the following grounds. That Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi, acting as a Cabinet Secretary responsible for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, appears to have committed gross violation of these constitutional provisions by 1, not undertaking public participation with leaders, stakeholders or even departments within the ministry in the implementation of far-reaching policy decisions.
So this is an impeachment motion of Mithika Linturi, and actually the parliament, a good number of them, though most of the people who actually advocated for his impeachment are those from the opposition. But we will come to the conversation about the opposition and the government and the parliament. But I would like us to delve into this conversation of the impeachment of Mithika Linturi. And you look at this issue, does it even hold water from where you see it?
Yeah, I believe the issue is merited, and it is very bad that the ministry, or rather the government through the National Cereals and Produce Board and the structures in place allowed some crooked individuals to send to sell fake fertilizers. How bad it was when you saw farmers, you sacrificed your money, you go there, you buy fertilizer only to find that there are collections of some stones, I don't know, droppings from goats, mixture of those. It is very embarrassing that those fertilizers were coming from the government offices, and now we are saying somebody has to take responsibility. If there are individuals down under the Ministry of Agriculture responsible for it, let them be prosecuted, let them be taken through the law. But somebody senior has to take responsibility. I think that is the message Parliament is passing, because it is all about supervision, as you said. If the leadership at the top is rotten, then everything down will be bad. So what we see at the ground level is a manifestation of what the leadership is. So if Parliament doesn't take such an initiative, then it means we are not doing anything as leaders. I believe Linturi will have a chance to go through that process. He will have a chance to even challenge it in court. And if he is removed, he'll be the first CS to be removed through impeachment. And I think understandably, it will be justified if the motion goes through at the end of the process, because the process has just started with Parliament recommending an 11-member committee to investigate, to probe, and then to report back to Parliament on whether that motion has merit. Once we are through that process, it will be clear. But what we are seeing as Kenyans, because I happen to come from Trans Nzoia, the food basket of Kenya, where Kenyans buy those fertilizers every year in numbers, and they really trust that that is what they must do to earn income. So you can imagine the quality of the maize we are going to harvest this year because of such malpractice. Somebody has to take political responsibility. I have heard arguments from the leader of majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, trying to say that that impeachment motion was, it was untimely because the DPP is investigating and there is a committee of Parliament investigating. But there is no law that bars Parliament from impeaching, even if those other processes are on, unless there was a court order stopping his impeachment. So I believe that parliamentarians have the power to do that, and that is their job. And I expect that that process is going to be open, transparent, and most importantly, is going to be taken through the legal process fairly. Impeachments are political in nature. So even if it will not meet the legal threshold at this level, let him take political responsibility on behalf of government.
So actually you've raised a very important issue, and that is on the majority leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, what he actually says, because he considers this motion a decoy to hide those who are actually culpable, ultimately capable. So, but the question is, who is capable at this point? Because I believe there's so many organizations or institutions actually that are to ensure that the fertilizers or the products that actually go to the market, they meet a certain threshold, and that include KEBS. And mentioned earlier. And actually, even the minister, the cabinet secretary actually mentioned the KEBS actually for allowing this product actually to go to the market which did not meet a threshold. But whether this is, whether Mithika Linturi, okay, the question is, which organization or which institution exactly would we actually blame from where you sit? Is it the minister? Is it KEBS? Is this other institutions, or is it even the president? As Otinde Amolo put that if we cannot even go for the president, then we must go higher as the minister. What do you think? What do you make?
Of course, the impeachment of Linturi doesn't mean that he is the only person who is culpable. Of course, somebody somewhere at KEBS must have approved, they either approved or they must have been bribed to remain silent about what they must have discovered at some level. We are not sure whether this fake fertilizer was imported the way it is or whether some people packaged them in some offices here in Nairobi. But the work of KEBS is to ensure that consumers get the right quality of goods countrywide, including fertilizers. So if this went to the market and they were, they were sold without them taking note and even flagging them off and stopping them, then it means somebody at KEBS has to take responsibility. But the impeachment of Linturi doesn't mean that the process is closed. So many other people can still be taken through the process of law, including the Director General for KEBS and even the CS whose docket KEBS belongs. I don't know whether it is industrialization. So that at the end of it, we have a chain of individuals, even under the ministry, under the CS, we have a PS, we have other senior government officials going down to those offices where the fake fertilizer were being sold, because some of them, I think, have been impounded in some offices. I think even in Nyanza, NCPB offices, they have found fake fertilizers, which they were trying to, to put them aside. So somebody, even in that lower level, has to take responsibility. It may not be impeachment because the impeachment is only applicable to the CS, presidents, governors, and those leaders at that level. For those others, somebody has to be charged in court. Some have to face, dismissals, and they have to be answerable to Kenyans. So it is not only Mithika Linturi, but for Kimani Ichung'wah again in Parliament to try and try to halt the process. I think it was good that members of Parliament from both sides of the political divide were largely in agreement that this is an impeachment motion that has to go to the next level. It speaks a lot about, I think, at this moment, the level of anger and the level of, disappointment that Kenyans have, which now the members of Parliament are compelled to act upon. Because if it was the usual politics, these politicians would still have voted along those political lines. But for these ones, I think you saw most of the members of Parliament from the North Rift region, from the Rift Valley region, were silent. They were not really loud. They only participated in voting, mainly because I think their people are affected. And it is not, they don't want to look like they are fighting their own in government, but at the same time, they are disappointed, and they are conveying the message from their people, from the ground, that this was not right and somebody has to take responsibility. Now, if we don't, hold the cabinet secretary responsible, we may hold others responsible, but what is the role of a CS? Because he's in charge of the Ministry of Agriculture. And this ministry was the one which was tasked with ensuring that the welfare of farmers is taken care of. Even if he is not aware, he ought to have been aware, because at the end of it, he is the head. And they say, as they say, the bigger the head, the bigger the headache.
Okay. Thank you so much for that quite elaborating much into this. But there's still the question of who should be culpable for this, or rather who is guilty. Because you've talked about a long chain of even some of or these fake fertilizers being found in somewhere in Nyanza. And the question, because the minister actually initially said that he is not to be blamed, someone else is to be blamed. But again, the question will be like, what is the role of a minister in this? In this instance, is the minister, is there a way through which this issue touches on the minister directly, that actually Kimani Ichung'wah, because as he says that this is a decoy actually, so that some people who are actually capable or ultimately capable are not touched. What is the role of the minister directly into this issue from where you sit? So many people have actually accused him.
From where I sit, the CS is in charge of the ministry, all aspects of that ministry, including influencing policy and policy development for the ministry, and now, most importantly, executing the mandate of that ministry, the functions of the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock and those other departments, so that if he is to give a directive that, this and this should be done in this region, stop issuing those fertilizers in this region, he is supposed to be present everywhere all the time through his people, so that if something happens, he ought to have been the first one to discover and to even dismiss some junior officials in his office, because he has the power to hire and to even fire some officials under the ministry. So it is him to now demonstrate what he did, whether he discovered it or whether it came from the media, it came from the public and from other sources. Because if he never discovered it, then he ought to have known. So him failing to know that there is a problem with the quality of the fertilizers we are distributing, it speaks a lot about whether he's in charge of the ministry or not. These charges, this impeachment motion, the Constitution frames the grounds of impeachment in general terms. It talks about gross violation of the Constitution. It talks about committing a crime when there is a belief that you have committed a crime, not necessarily being convicted. And so that aspect of gross violation of the Constitution is couched in very generic terms, which now the proposers of the motion can still frame their motion to suit it and to say that whatever has happened under his ministry amounts to gross violation of the Constitution in their own interpretation, and it may have to go to court. But what I suspect also is that there may not be any direct evidence linking him to the sale of the fake fertilizers. But him being the head of the ministry and the representative of the executive arm of government, he has to bear that responsibility and being the leader. And there is something called vicarious liability in law, where if, for instance, an employee commits does a mistake against an outsider, the employer is held vicariously liable for the actions of the employee. So the same applies, I think the same should apply to this instance. If junior officials at his ministry were responsible for selling and distributing them, the head of the ministry should still be held liable because in his tenure as the CS, that thing happened. Not necessarily him, even if he didn't participate directly, even if there is no evidence linking him, the fact that there are fertilizers that were found to be on sale by officials who belong to the ministry and the government, who permitted that to happen. Yeah.
Let me just ask you this, on behalf of Kenyans. Which ministries is KEBS in?
I think KEBS is under the Ministry of Industrialization. They normally abbreviate it at MITI, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industrialization. Yes.
So, but they're still linked?
They are still linked.
Okay.
That is a ministry. I think KEBS is now a state corporation under the ministry, which I hope I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I think I should correct that before the end of this session. KEBS, now there is a director general, but it is also answerable to that ministry. So that if there are officials of KEBS, and I think that now that will come out in this 11-member committee. It should also come out from the investigations being done by the DCI, and even the Agriculture Committee in Parliament, it will still come out how those those fertilizers went with the approval of KEBS officials, and at what stage did they approve? Because they have somebody must have approved them at KEBS. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. You've talked about something known as political responsibility, when someone has to take responsibility of what has actually happened. And now, in this case, the members of parliament actually says that it is now Mithika Linturi who is supposed to take the political responsibility. But as someone else would put it, that is Otindo Amollo, even the president should even be culpable of it. So I still do not know. Well, maybe as time goes by, we will get to delve into this. But I also understand that the minister, or rather, as we know how governments are being formed, ministries are given to loyalists of the president. It means that the president still wields immense influence in this issue. And actually, what the president actually, what he wants, I believe, because he has got most of the parliamentarians on his side, what the president will want will actually suffice. It will actually mean a lot to actually to the end of this, whether Mithika Linturi will actually be impeached or not. And so my question is, you see, we have seen the majority leader who is against this and says and terms all this notion as just a decoy. It begs whether this will really end to impeachment, because there is a minister of the government. Ruto wouldn't want to appear as a person who has failed. Or rather, someone will say that this conversation around impeachment is actually an ulterior motive to shift the focus of the nation to something else from what is happening, or to to other failures of the government and of the president in particular. I don't know what you think about this, but this is a conversation that we are having actually.
Yeah, you know what the president did was to establish his cabinet, and he delegated powers to them through the executive order, so that if you fail to discharge the mandate as given, he has the right to dismiss you. A CS can be removed through he can resign, he can he can be dismissed by the president without any reasons, and he can also be removed following an impeachment. Once parliament impeaches him, the president has no option. The constitution is clear that he shall dismiss him upon impeachment without any debate. So that so at this stage, the president has not chosen to dismiss him. To mean he still thinks he should be there. And you've seen the leader of majority trying to defend him, to suggest again that maybe the president still feels he should still retain him in the ministry. But now with the pressure that is coming from the public, and now that has gone to the parliament, I want to believe that the president will be accommodative enough to consider now the views of the parliamentarians, who are the representatives of Kenyans. They are elected, duly elected to represent the views of Kenyans. If parliament manages to impeach him and to remove him by impeachment, the president will not have any option other than dismiss him. And I think for the president to define his success story as Kenya Kwanza government, it doesn't have to be that he nominated and appointed CSS who served the full term. Removing some of them will also be a mark of success. It will mean he's serious about the fight against corruption, and he's serious about service delivery by the people he appoints. So I think this thing should be viewed in both perspectives. Him retaining him will not mean that he has covered the shame, because already it is in the public domain that fake fertilizers were sold, and it is all over the country, not just one region, not just one tribe, but all over the country. So retaining Linturi will not save the face. And removing him again will not really embarrass him, but it will be good that he allows the process, the due process, to take its course, because he has not chosen to exercise his power to dismiss him, and parliament has initiated the process. I think it is even better for him, because he is now absolved of any blame. that would come from the region he comes from. You know, the people from Meru will say, we are being targeted, you know, our man. So for the president, it is even safer if he is removed through a parliamentary process like that. And if I was to advise him, I would say, let the due process take its course. Let parliamentarians do that which they think should be done. And the arguments that, you know, it is meant to cover up others, I don't see where that falls, because it doesn't stop the DCI and even the other committee and any other agency from investigating and holding others culpable. We can impeach him and still go ahead and force the PS outside the office and everybody else under them. So it is still possible to hold everybody accountable.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let me just ask you this question, still on the same, and this is on the political implication of actually impeaching Mithika Linturi as a CS. You've talked about the president to allow the due process actually to take its own course. But again, the question will be, if you look at it at that angle of whether some people will sit somewhere and say that we are being targeted, the question of tribalism, because we know that it's so much in the country. Because someone will say that the composition of the members of parliament, so many are supporting the president, and therefore when the president speaks, it means that he wields a lot of influence even on the composition of the parliament itself. So for a motion to suffice, or rather to actually take course, then it means that it could be having the blessings of the president, or rather the president decides just decided to remain aloof of what is happening, which may also have some political impact. So I don't know whether from where you see it, what political impact do you see to this? And to this extent, now that the president has remained silent, because we still have yet another process that is going on, that is the 11-member committee. What can happen? We do not know. So what do you think?
From where I see it, I think politically, of course, the president always would want to see that parliament is solidly behind him, especially the wing that he controls. So this will be the first instance, I think, since his assumption to office, to have some of his supporters in parliament voting against what appears to be his position. And that again will not mean that they don't have his blessings, because it is possible that he has chosen to remain silent and to let them do it the way they want to do it. But the political implications are that, you know, there are some who will perceive that to mean that now parliament has started, you know, his will, or rather his hold on government has somehow, you know, loosened, given that now parliamentarians are now free to some extent to do that which they want outside what the government wants. But outside here, again, politically, I think if he's removed, there will be issues. He might, you know, Linturi might now go back to his people, and, you know, issues will arise. People from Meru will still want to be replaced, Linturi to be replaced by one of their own. And if not, you know, it will have implications going to 2027, which we can't tell at the moment because we are not yet there. But the process that is remaining, I hope Kenyans are aware that after the 11-member committee is done with the investigations, they will report back to Parliament on whether the charges should you know, hold weight or not. And if they say there is weight in those charges, Parliament again will vote, and we will require a simple majority. That means slightly above half the number of members of Parliament will vote to support it. You know, a simple majority again is quite simple to achieve. And I think where we are, it looks like that is where we are headed. Yeah.
Let me be a devil's advocate and ask this. Could this impeachment motion, bearing that the president will such immense influence, reaching this extent, means or could be a Trojan horse for maybe to divert the attention of Kenyans from some of the real issues? Of course, this is also a real issue, but some of the issues that actually are affecting them.
I don't think, because It is coming at a time when, the same CS had been summoned, I think last month, to Parliament. He has been in television stations explaining the position, and the explanations have not been convincing. And now the series of events since the fertilizer issue came out, I think in March, April, we are now in May.
Okay.
It logically follows that this would be the right time for him to be impeached.
Okay.
So you can't say that they are bringing in
Okay.
to divert us from something, because
Okay.
when would we have done it if not now?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Nabei. We are still here with this conversation on the insight as we discuss our government and, of course, the people, and give insights on critical issues that actually are affecting the people. Well, we are taking a very quick short break, but we'll be right back after this.
Hi guys, welcome again to yet another amazing episode of the Youth Hub, the show that gets you.
As unaamka asubuhi unapata na sufuria yako ngara juu. It's not easy. Maji ilikuwa
no one person can fix this. Isipokuwa bedeni ule God mmoja tunaoshi atakuja kusaidia.
Kwenda hivi dona kaona niaje nyinyi abiria lakini kidogo bae.
Bae acha yeruke.
Kaangwa.
Unaona
Haikuwa siku na abiria alikuwa hapo ndani akasema
Yes,
aanze
Peter.
kumwambia CSKL mkuu
Na si
amesimpa
is
ku.
not the only person.
Somo gani?
Kuna mingi
I think alikuwa very vulgar. Venye jamaa ndio yake kidevo. Kuna venye tu aliongea akamchekelea estimate nilikuambia.
nilikwambia na usikii.
ya pale hivyo isipe.
Yes. So weka simu chini.
Nimeuma nje.
There is no animal that produces.
Iko wallahi Google hapo. Hata kama flamingo ni
Hiyo
pia.
tunaenda kufanya homework.
Naifanya
Clear.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Napenda kuchallenge watu kama hao. Sasa nimenaji challenge mimi mwenyewe jisikii.
saizi ni ile time CSKL mkuu ataswim paku.
Utasimpa.
Okay.
That is kind of joke swim.
Exactly.
Different tu kidogo lakini naona hiyo. Lakini
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
우리 죄를
sins.
지셨고
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 주고 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가
and he was put into the tomb
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak,
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
about how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being
우리
crucified,
죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
he was crucified to pay for our
그리고
sins.
예수님 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Everywhere, GBS.
Thank you so much and welcome back to The Insight. My name is Eugene Kwach. We continue with this conversation on The Insight. And of course, we are here with Nabei, who is an advocate of the High Court, a lawyer. Thank you so much, Wakili, as we continue with the conversation. The next conversation will be on the Bunge Towers that actually had been launched some time back. And this is a milestone to the lawmakers, actually. And the big question will be, what will change when we have maybe this Bunge Tower? Maybe in a few words.
I think what the most important thing we expect to change is the costs, the amount of money that Parliament normally spends to conduct their business. They have been using, private hotels, hiring functions. And now that we have this modern facility, they have enough space for their committee meetings, and we expect that, our budgetary allocation that goes to Parliament for that purpose should reduce. But we also expect members of Parliament to enjoy more in terms of space and even luxury and comfort. That building is huge. It costed Kenyans more than 9 billion, and it is a project that has taken over 12 years. I'm told, I read that the project was conceived in 2009. That is quite a long time, and having been launched, I think it is quite a milestone for our parliament. With those facilities that have been equipped. There is, I'm told, there are restaurants, there is a gym, there are even underground tunnels to help them connect to the assembly without security fears. And of course, it was meant to accommodate the 349 members of parliament. This expanded bicameral legislature that we came up with from 2010 under this constitution. So it is good. It is good for them, and it is also good for the country. We hope that they will be able to cut on their expenditures. But in terms of service delivery, I think nothing has always barred members of parliament from discharging their roles. They have been having reasonably good facilities. Some of them have been occupying KICC. Some of them have been occupying Continental House, which is, if you look at it objectively, those were good facilities. And an office is just, a physical place, but there are functions, there are main functions on the floor of parliament and on the ground. Yeah.
And thank you so much. You've actually mentioned of this project taking over 12 years, and it has actually costed Kenya 9 billion. So for Kenya to actually continue investing in lawmakers with billions of money, they need to actually see a return on their investment to these people, to the public servants. But as it has always been known, and even particularly a case in point is this 13th parliament, whereby the parliament has actually been considered and termed as an appendage of the executive, where they actually do that which only the executive wants. So it still begs the question whether they really will serve Kenyans, and under the notion of fidelity to the people. Yes, a government of the people, will they entrench that in their service and in the decisions that actually they make, in the laws that they create in the parliament? This is a big question actually. And maybe from where you sit, do you think that this will change anytime soon, where we will now stop talking of the politics of party politics and now start talking on what is actually based on or rather what has been prescribed by the institution, the parliament itself, to the people, service to the people? What do you think?
Eugene, to be honest, I think we should not expect so much change with, even with the launch of this multi-billion building. Our parliamentarians, they are politicians, and as you said, they have always tried to align themselves, and most of the time, Parliament has not stood independently. And that is not to say that what the executive always done is bad. Sometimes there are policies and initiatives by the executive arm of government that deserve support of Parliament, and that is good. But in instances where the executive is, is being excess and is violating the law, Parliament is expected to stand firm and to do that which Kenyans have mandated them to do, to hold the government of the day in check. I don't expect much change because now this is something that looks like an enticement to them to continue, serving the executive very well and working well with the executive. So, but besides that, I think there is a lot that parliamentarians do in terms of even managing and supervising CDF funds at the grassroots level. Those functions largely do not have any nexus with how they relate to the executive, because those are funds they are given every year, and they have they have a lot of power in terms of forming those CDF committees and ensuring that projects are fast tracked. So I think that is where Kenyans expect them to do more, because that is where they touch the common man directly in terms of representation at the National Assembly and even passing bills and laws. I can say largely they have always, taken the route that the executive has directed them to. But if they could, utilize the fund properly at the ground level, I think that will impact Kenyans in a better way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's good that you say that just the house is not just enough, but there is more in actually creating very sustainable lives for Kenyans. It is now work upon the government, the parliamentarians. A month ago, we lost General Ogola to death through an accident, and of course he has been replaced by General Kahariri, and the question has always been whether Tonje rules will actually be implemented, and there's always been conversation around what are Tonje rules, where are they written, are they also in the constitution, and how does Tonje rules and the constitution come in actually even selecting the generals, or who becomes the general, or who becomes who in this leadership. And also, as we get to finish this conversation, or to come to the end of this conversation, is also that history has actually been made during this time, where we have had Major General Gaitia, that is Fatma Mohammed Ahmed, who was made the first service commander of the Air Force. So this has actually also been celebrated as a milestone in advancing gender equality within the armed forces. I don't know what to make of this, even as we come to the end of this conversation.
About Tonje rules, I think the Tonje rules were in simple terms to the effect that these top positions should always be rotated amongst the Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force, and the Kenya Navy, so that if the current CDF leaves, exits, the next person should either come from Kenya Navy or Kenya Airways, the way Ogola was from Kenya Airways. So the nomination, the appointment of General Charles Kahariri, I think largely it has followed that trend. And in my opinion, it is a good one, because we want to see these officers get a fair chance of serving at the top level. And for that to be achieved, I think there has to be a rule that ensures that these three units have an equal chance of getting a bite at the cherry. So Charles Kahariri is also equally competent. I think he is considered to be the senior most currently, and he has been the vice CDF, so automatically he had to come there. The organ that has the ultimate, the power to vet and to recommend to the president is the Defense Council, which recommended him. And I think it is the same Defense Council that made recommendations on who becomes the vice to Charles Kahariri, and now the promotion, the ripple effect that goes down to those other positions. It is also good that the president and our military, the Defense Council, led by Aden Duale, has seen it fit to see that we have a woman, a lady occupying the position of Commander, Kenya Air Force, for the first time. It is historic, and it is also a demonstration that we are heading somewhere as a country in terms of, the stereotypes, the culture about gender issues. I think with that level of confidence we have placed in General Fatma, I think Kenya is headed the right direction.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. We have come to the end of this conversation. Maybe your parting shot in 2 words.
My parting shot, I think, in line with what the president addressed the nation today, we as Kenyans, we remain firm, and we hope that even the floods, as they continue raging, we hope that we are not going to lose more lives. Let's take care at personal levels. Let's take care of our neighbors who are affected. Let's take care of one another. Let's be our brothers' keepers. And for whoever is in authority, please do your job. And let's all ensure that Kenyans are well taken care of in terms of welfare, security, and everything.
Thank you so much, Wakili, for joining us to this conversation tonight, as we got to delve onto very critical issues and matters of national importance. So we have come to the end of this conversation, and on behalf of everyone who has actually made this a success, we wish to wish you a very good night. My name is Eugene Kwach, and this is The Insight, and you have been watching GPS TV. Good night.